Deb,
Yeah, nice to meet
I
you.
have to ask the elephant in the room question. I'm cross-eyed from watching the Mueller report.
Yes.
So as Democrats, where do we go from here?
And Deb, it's an issue that I had a bunch of reporters ask me about outside. And I want to just, one thing say, we should say, as Americans, where do we go? We have a president of the United States of America who's had everybody, a lot of people around him, from his campaign, top campaign leaders, to leaders in his administration, be indicted. We have a president now that wasn't exonerated in this report. If anything, it cast a shadow over potential obstruction of justice. And the report confirmed what we all should be worried about, which is incredible interventions going on from foreign powers in our elections. And so this report is a step. It is about now continuing those investigations, about Congress doing their job. Mueller should come testify. We should have everyone have access to a report that is appropriately redacted. I'm not sure if this Attorney General we have, I'm not sure if I trust them to know whether they're giving us Cliff Note versions, because we saw already that Barr's comments about the Mueller report, 4-page summary, didn't adequately reflect what we're now reading. So I'm going to be one of those folks on the Judiciary Committee pointing to have hearings, pointing to make sure that we bring Mueller to give us a fuller and more detailed understanding of his perspective on all the work that he did for over a year. I'm on the Judiciary Committee, I'm on the Foreign Relations Committee, I'm on the Small Business Committee, and I'm on the Environment and Public Works Committee.
We got time for 2 more questions.
2 more questions, so many hands though. So I'm gonna go back, well, we're gonna go here and here. Mark.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you for your time so much. It's really a pleasure, Senator. And you've been very vocal on fighting against the NRA. I was just wondering, specific policies you would have in your presidency, taking them on.
So I just want to give people a larger understanding of why I am not just vocal, but why this has been an issue I've been fighting since I was a legitimately young Democrat. So we don't have just mass shootings with unfortunate and awful regularity in this country. Every single day in America, 30+ people are dying from gunshot. So in the aggregate, we're having mass shootings every single day. We had suicides there. It's upwards of 90 people a day. And my community is one of those communities where even though my mayor, the federal mayor, has been lowering the levels of violence along with great coalitions, we have shootings all the time, too often. I'm one of those communities where I think the only senator, the only person running for president has had shootings on their block. Todd Smith was killed with an assault rifle at the top of the block where I live with, a young man that I knew when I was living in some high-rise projects. I've seen too many shrines to children killed on sidewalks. I've been to too many funerals where the most perverse thing happens when parents bury their children. I've seen firsthand the gruesome nature of having bodies strewn out on the streets. Since my lifetime, 49 years and 11 months that I've been alive, we've had more people die from gun violence than all the wars combined going back to the Revolutionary War. And let me tell you, as an African-American male in this country, we are 6% of the nation's population, but make up the majority of the homicide crimes. And so this is very, very personal to me, to know many people personally who died from gun violence in my own community. And the lack of urgency that we have is unacceptable to me. Because every day we wait, dozens of people die. Dozens and dozens and dozens more. And so I am going to be the president that takes a fight to the NRA like they have never, ever seen before. And we are going to bring that fight because I know that the NRA's membership doesn't even agree with the NRA's position. The majority of gun owners, the majority of NRA members in this country, believe that we should not be a nation where someone who is convicted for abusing their spouse should then be able to use a loophole to go out and buy a weapon to kill them. The majority of NRA members agree that we should not be a nation where someone who's on a terrorist no-fly list can then go to a gun show and fill it with a trunk full of weapons and go into one of our malls, or one of our synagogues, or one of our mosques and create incredible violence. I am a person who strongly believes that the NRA membership, we must make sure we are doing things so the NRA, who is representing the gun lobby and not the interests of their own membership, is stopped. They're going to be the force. And so I'm going to bring a fight. You asked for specifics. I'm going to tell you this one thing right now. I've been in some fights before. I'm not going to telegraph all my punches. I'm not. But I will tell you that there are tactics we can use to investigate their NRA and their 501c3 status if they violated it. Because we know already that they've taken foreign money and don't have a clear understanding of what they're doing with that foreign money they're taking and how they're using it to interfere in elections and to do other things. So there are levers we haven't pulled, and I'll tell you the one thing I will not do is simply come forward after another mass shooting or another day of outrageous violence and have only thoughts and prayers to offer. Faith without works is dead.
Amen.
Hi, I had a very important question. Thank you for being here. The crisis at the border, which to me is a crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis.
Yes.
What would you do as president to address the crisis at the border? And what would you do to make sure that people are coming here in a way where they are able to get their asylum process in a speedy, expeditious way, so they're not detained or waiting like that, they're not separated from their family? And also, as the president, what would you do to make sure that regions aren't destabilized as such, where people feel that they need to, en masse, come up into the United States? Because obviously, we can't take in all of Latin America into the United
No, I'm
States.
so grateful for the wisdom of what you're saying. Really a lot of wisdom based, and your answer is actually within your question. But let me just give about one of the more dark and painful chapters of this country. During the World War II, during the Holocaust, there was literally a ship full of refugees escaping the Holocaust into the war country. And we turned that ship around, and pretty much all of those folks died in the Nazi concentration camps and Nazi groups. It's that kind of history that is so shameful and so dark that led to a bipartisan effort to make asylum laws that we have right now, that this president now is refusing to honor. And that means that people who are coming, escaping natural disasters, escaping violence, should be able to present themselves for asylum and be evaluated through a process. Now, that's not being done. I actually went to McAllen, Texas, late at night, midnight, and walked across that bridge into Mexico, where the guy greeted me. It's time for the growth from necesita al regresar. He was saying, it's really dangerous here, you need to go back. And here I am, again, this very large guy, trying to cross. They're telling me it's too dangerous, so I circled around, went back to try to come in. Now, I thought I'd be greeted at passport control. No, they stationed people out in the middle of that bridge to stop us. Mothers with children, late at night, and they stopped me and started asking me all kinds of questions. Well, I pulled out my passport, I gave it to them, and I kept asking them questions. Why are you out here on the bridge and not there? Well, we're turning people away. So you're turning away mothers with children in an area they just told me was too dangerous to go to. Asylum seekers, turning people away back into the danger like we did back in World War II. Are you kidding me? And then we blame them for trying to find other ways to cross, and then so suddenly we go from legal asylum seekers to being forced to do things that are considered illegal. So this to me is outrageous. It is an affront to our values as a country. And the way to solve this problem is to invest a lot more money in the asylum process. Is to make sure that we're doing things not like separating families and putting children in cages. Is making sure that we have processes at our border that reflect our values. But you said in your question something that is just common sense, right? It's like this old story of a guy at the river and sees babies in the river, dives and saves a child, and as soon as he gets to the child, sees another one, dives and saves that child. Another guy comes up to him, he's like, hey man, all these babies in the river, help me the baby. He goes, no. He keeps walking. God, what are you doing? How can you be so crass? He goes, no, I'm not gonna help you. I'm going to the top of the river to figure out why all these babies are being put in the river in the first place. Why are we pulling money back from these Latin American countries that are struggling? This brother who was here before talking about foreign aid to other countries, we should be leaning forward and working with those countries to stabilize the problems of their violence that are going on, that are causing a lot of these migration crises as a whole. Not doing what this president seems to do, which is talking about pulling back aid and pulling back funding. So I'm gonna have a system that makes sure that we are involved with our neighbor nations here in the Americas. That we're doing strategic. And by the way, there's evidence-based approaches that we can be doing in those countries to stop the crisis that's causing so many refugees. And on top of that, to make sure here in our nation we have immigration policies that reflect our values and systems, not to put kids in cages, but they're appropriate to deal with the human dignity of everyone who comes to the country, okay? I'm gonna disagree with my own staff who's trying to get me to the airport to take a flight to Reno. I'm gonna risk that TSA lines won't be too long to take a couple more questions, and if I can. So 2 more questions. We're gonna go, we're gonna go here to this gentleman, because he's holding up a paper. We're gonna go to this young lady, and I'm sorry to inform her, but we can talk. I'm not gonna leave right away, I'll stick around and talk a little bit individually, and take some selfies if you want. So yes, sir, you have, like, you're
Yes,
standing there.
I do.
With a prop.
Well, this right here is for clean air and clean energy, which is the conversation I feel that not too many people is actually taking serious. Climate change is here and it is real. And I was wondering, as president, how aggressive will you take this matter?
Brother, I'm so grateful for that question, because again, I'm one of these people in the race where you don't have to ask about what I plan on doing. You can look at my career and how I dealt with these issues with urgency. Because you talk about clean air, and again, you know this, in many urban areas, the asthma rates are 3-4 times higher than many suburban areas. They're often urban communities, or where they place, in my cities, like the incinerator from the county goes into the urban area. It's like all those hazards that cause kids in communities like mine to have higher lead levels, higher asthma rates, often go into vulnerable communities. It's something I call environmental justice. I'm the leader in the Senate on environmental justice issues. From the time I've been mayor to the time I've been a United States Senator, I've been fighting for access to clean air, to clean water, and clean soil. Don't forget about that as well. Because so many communities have contaminated soil as well. When I did my urban farms, or created blocks of just gardens, the state wouldn't let me plant in the ground because it was so full of lead and other heavy metals and chemicals. And so we have to have an environmental justice president, and that's dealing with clean air, the mercury rules that Donald Trump reversed, and methane rules that Donald Trump reversed, and all the kind of things, to me, that we should have the EPA focusing on, so that every child has a birthright in America: clean air, clean water, clean soil. But it's more than that. You and I also both know, when climate change, this crisis is coming, that we have 12 years to deal with before irreparable damage. That if you look at military reports planning for the next 25 years, they're planning for global crises, famines, and refugee crises, or even worse, because when water disappears and heat, or that causes instability, causes more of an environment for extremism. So our military believes this is a real problem, but our politicians don't. And so I'm gonna deal with a sense of urgency, and these are some of the things I'm gonna do. Number one, on environmental justice issues, brother, I'm gonna start giving localities legal standing so they can start suing some of these polluters and stopping some of these things in their communities which are unfair. And this ranges from everything from these CAFOs, these concentrated animal feeding operations that are poisoning soil and land, all the way to places like Cancer Alley in Louisiana, that is a stretch of the Mississippi, where people have massive cancer clusters because the chemical companies there polluting air. I'm gonna make sure that we do things that fund the kind of things that we know clean up our air. Because when I was mayor, I said we're gonna lean into this problem. We're gonna environmentally retrofit all of our buildings. It's gonna lower our taxpayer energy costs. It's gonna create jobs for my community, apprenticeship programs for my kids, and clean our environment here by lowering our heat and heat island that we have. There are so many things that we can do in this country that we're not doing, this low-hanging fruit. But to me, it's not enough to do the low-hanging fruit. We need to invest in the energy ideas of the future by doubling down on energy innovation to make sure, from battery life to renewables, we're leading the planet, not following the countries right now that are out investing us in the ideas of the future. We need to start looking at the polluters, and carbon is a pollution, and making sure that that doesn't become a negative externality that large businesses are continuing to do, and find a way to change the behavior of our businesses. But it's not enough to stop even the carbon going into the air. We need to do the things that are pulling it back out, and that means changing farming practices and cover crops. There's incredible innovations that we know that can pull more carbon out of the air, capture it back into the soil, or even into our concrete. And then the final thing I want you to understand, very important, is that this problem, America, we're only 4 or 5% of the global population. What we produce, we punch over our weight, we produce 14% of greenhouse carbon gases, but if we solve that problem, we're only solving 14% of the problem. The rest of the planet is dealing with this issue as well, and so we have to make sure we're helping to lead globally on this issue. One of the first things I'm going to do as president is rejoin the Paris Climate Accords. I'm going to use our foreign policy levers, because we get a lot of foreign aid, we were just talking about that, to help other countries and incentivize other countries to do some of the best practices that we're leading by example and doing ourselves. Okay? All right. So you're the last question. It's a lot of pressure. I mean, like, everybody's looking at you now and saying, you better make it good.
I can very much, respect what you were saying about how people, before you even came along, pushed you forward and allowed you to be who you've been and be successful as you are. I, as a disabled woman, from the day I was born, had many people, teachers, parents, always pushing me forward, always pushing for my own rights. The unfortunate part about that is the ADA hasn't changed basically since it was written. And it has some major gaps, and that the way our services for the disabled work, it's that if you want to live, you must live in poverty, and you cannot, I mean, I'm risking going to school, like, if I'm gonna have Medicaid later on, if I wanna actually have the career I wanna have. My question to you is, what reform would you want to see in disability rights in this country?
So, as I said already, just from my own housing history, the head of our housing culture, she's still dealing now with disability discrimination in housing. And that we're not doing enough to make sure that equal housing access is happening. We're not doing enough to make sure that our court systems, we're not making sure our government services, there's so many areas where people with disabilities are not getting a fair and equal shot. Even public education, I'm gonna be a massive transformation if I am the President of the United States, because we don't even keep our commitment to special needs education to help with people with different needs. It's supposed to be funded at 40%, we only funded at 18%. And you're gonna see me change that. We don't value the work of people with disabilities in this country, from not paying them even minimum wage in some cases, all the way to not rewarding that work. This is why one of the big things that I'm doing. What's that? Subminimum wage. This is why one of the big things that I'm doing is something called the RISE credit, which is massively expanding the earned income tax credit for every American. And so whether you're a student struggling to work through college, right now you don't qualify for their earned income tax credit, you'll qualify for $4,000 in the tax credit. For someone, you said, has a disability, is working really hard, you're gonna be qualified for the credit. For someone who's staying home to take care of people who have severe disabilities, you don't get that work value either. And that work should be valued by our society. My RISE credit gives you a $4,000 tax credit as well for that work. We're gonna start honoring that. So this is something that I dealt with from the time I was mayor, when we realized that we were not providing city services in a way that was equal and accessible to all of our population. We started making changes there. If I'm your president, I'm gonna make tremendous changes. I want to give you one more thing though before we close, and I'm not running away yet. I think my staff's trying to reserve time so I can stay here and talk to people a little bit. But I think it's this point that, and I think it's your name, I'm sorry.
Jenny.
There's a point that Jenny's making about that there's still work to do in this country to be who we say we are, a nation of liberty and justice for all, to be fair and equal for everyone. And that's why I think I just want to end with this urgency to everybody here. I hope that some folks here heard my message, heard my experience, know my resume, and we consider helping us on the campaign. Eric and others, if you're on my team, can you raise your hand so folks can see who you are? You can go up to these folks afterwards and say, hey, I'd love to help, I'd love to be a part. But I want to say that regardless of what you do, I want to make a warning that the most common way people surrender their power is not realizing they have it in the first place. This is the third state that's going to be electing, voting for the nominee for the party. You all have tremendous power to shape the trajectory of this election. And my request to everybody here is your conversation, engagement with the candidates could really affect the national conversation and what we do. And your conversations with other people to participate in this election can do a lot to help with the urgency of the day. So I want to leave you with a challenge that I felt when I first went to the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. I was brought there by my brother who was teaching at a historically black college called Lemoyne Owen. And he brought me to the museum that's there now, but what gave me chills was when I looked down and I saw the block of stone that was there on this very spot that Martin Luther King was killed in April, 51 years ago. A year plus before I was even born. And on that block of stone is actually a quote from scripture. Understand, I'm one of these guys that says, before you tell me about your religion, show it to me and how you treat other people. And I'm a big guy that believes I would rather hang out with a nice atheist than a mean Christian any day of the week. But if you allow me to just talk about what the scripture is on that stone, that I believe was written as to a challenge to all who would live and come after Martin Luther King was killed. It's actually words taken from the Torah. It's also evidence in the Bible and in the Quran. It's words that Joseph's brothers uttered when they saw Joseph with that coat of many colors and that interpreter of dreams approaching the desert. They uttered these words right before they grabbed him and threw him into a well to die. But he didn't die. There's an old saying from religion that says sometimes you have to go to the pit before you go to the palace. Because he would actually go into the palace and he would help lead a nation through crisis. And through the family, right? You know your Bible, Torah, or Quran. I don't know.
Bible. My mom is a born again Christian.
Well, your name is Christian, so.
My real name is Israel Noah.
Oh, Israel Noah. Christian Israel Noah. That gives it away. Well, I want to tell you that metaphorically, there's a lot of Americans that feel like we're in that pit right now in our country. They feel like they're in that pit because their kids are poisoned by lead. They feel like they're in that pit because they're struggling to make ends meet, and the harder they work, they still find themselves behind the wheel. They're in that pit because they're putting aside prescription drugs because this government hasn't done the things necessary to drive down the cost of prescription drugs. They're in that pit because they lost a child to gun violence. I can tell you all the reasons why so many Americans are despairing at this moment, worried about that pit. And so what does it say to future generations? It goes to the point that my friend was making here, which is that it's this challenge that we all should take very personally, especially right now. And so it says there, where Martin Luther King was slain, the words from the Torah and the Bible and the Quran, it says, "Behold, here cometh the dreamer. Let us slay him and see what becomes of his dream." The question I want to ask everybody here, the challenge I want to give you is, what's going to become of our dream? The dream of America. The dream that our forefathers and mothers fought for and died for, from Iwo Jima beaches to Normandy beaches, from Mississippi, where Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner, black, white, Christian, Jewish, died together. What will become of our dream? The dream that our forefathers and mothers scrubbed floors for, cleaned tables for, did the work with dignity so that their kids could have a better life. What will become of our dream? It's time for us to take responsibility for that dream. And I'm going to dare say it's time for us to dream again. To dream bold dreams for our country, defiant dreams of our country, to reignite that spirit of the American dream. Dreams that say that we could be a nation where everybody has access to health care. Dream that we could be a nation that everybody can have a job that pays at the very least a living wage. Dream that everybody who retires retired with security, that every child goes to a school that's a great public school, a cathedral of learning. It's time for us to dream again. And if we decide in this time period, in this point in American history, that we are going to dream again and do the work to make that dream real, because as Frederick Douglass says, that there's no struggle, there is no progress. If we're going to engage in that struggle, to dream with that courageous, defiant love, and I promise you our tomorrows will be better than our yesterdays. I promise you that, as King said, justice will roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I promise you that we will be another generation coming that will do what my mom says and astonish the ones before. I promise you that we do this in this moment, in this state, that we in this room are powerful and we can help to ensure that this nation goes from the pit to the palace, that we as a nation, America, will rise. Thanks.